Hamilton College, Lehigh University, Princeton University, and UPenn. We are so excited to hear from you today. Before we begin, a friendly reminder to our parents and our scholars about our Padres Charla and Cafecito event tomorrow at WCC from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We'll be discussing how to pay for college, including topics related to financial aid and FAFSA, and we hope to see you there. The parking at tomorrow's event is free, and the address and information on how to get there is on Classrooms. So encourage your parents to come. There'll be a lot of information given that you'll be using for the boot camp on October 11th. So now I'd like to introduce to you your college access managers, Selena and Camila.
Hi, Lucas Scholars. I know you're very used to seeing me, but we have a very, very lovely new college access manager joining us, and she's actually going to be running our event for today. I would like to introduce Camila, please.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I know a few of you I've been able to meet through check-ins, but for those that I have not had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name's Camila, she, her, ella pronouns. I am the new college access manager at LUCA, and I'm really, really excited to be a part of the team. I've had such a great time so far being able to meet all the students and being able to join such a great team who has so much passion for our mission. In my role, I support first generation students as they navigate the college admissions process, and find ways to reach their goals. And I really love being able to be a part of the process and support them along the way. I'm first gen myself, and I'm very excited to be here with you all today. A huge thank you to all the reps for being here and taking time to share your insight. I know it'll be really helpful for the students. It'll be helpful for us. So I am going to start off with Emily, and then sort of we'll go through, do just intros for now, and then we'll start off with the first question right after.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Singer. I am a Senior Assistant Dean of Admission at Princeton. Always thrilled whenever I can make it to a LUCA event. So thank you all for being here tonight and for including us.
Thank you, Emily. Drew, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Drew Kaplan. I'm an admissions counselor at Lehigh University. It's great to see so many of you kind of on the call tonight. I know it's always great to be at a LUCA event. I know I was at the one last year in the White Plains Library. Now I'm tuning in from a hotel in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So it's great to be here, even though I'm not in New York right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. Michaela and then Connor.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michaela Beagle. I'm an Associate Director of Admissions at the University of Pennsylvania. I'm filling in for my colleague Susanna, who's really wonderful and works with students from the Westchester area. But I cover other parts of New York State and New York City, so I'm really excited to be here with you guys today.
Awesome. And then I'm Connor McManus. I'm an Assistant Dean of Admission at Hamilton College in upstate New York, and I am also the Regional Representative for Westchester and Rockland counties here in New York. Super excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. And I think we'll keep the same pattern as we go through the questions. So to start us off, can you tell us a little bit about your college and what sets you apart?
Yeah, it's exciting to go first for this question. So as I said before, I work for Princeton University. We are located in central New Jersey, about halfway between New York City and Philadelphia. To give you a little geography lesson, I actually was in Westchester earlier today in the White Plains area. It takes about 2 hours to drive to Princeton from where you all are, for a little geography there. Princeton is a small to medium size university. We have about 5,600 undergraduate students, just about 3,000 graduate students. That is something that makes us quite unique. We have a very strong focus on undergraduate education. And so your classes at Princeton are going to be quite small. You're going to have the ability to connect with professors. We have some of the best and the brightest in their field. And something that all students at Princeton are going to do when it comes to academics is engage in undergraduate research. It is a requirement at Princeton, so all students complete what we call the senior thesis or the senior independent work requirement. This is your own independent research project that you're going to embark on during your senior year, working closely with faculty member to think of your research question, your research methods, and then by the end of the year, write about a 50 to 100-page paper of all of your research findings. It is quite a monumental project. Thankfully, it's something that happens during your senior year, so you have lots of time to get ready for it. Aside from those pieces of research and a real strong undergraduate focus, we also have a strong focus on the liberal arts, which I know some of the other schools here do as well, so they'll talk to you about that as well. But really, we want you to take classes across a wide variety of subject areas, be exposed to lots of different things, and open your mind to the different possibilities that college can bring to you, and post-graduation as well. We have a beautiful residential campus community where basically all of our students live on campus all 4 years. And something that I feel is very unique about Princeton is our incredible financial aid program. We offer financial aid across the income spectrum. We are need blind when it comes to admission, meaning applying for financial aid will never negatively impact you within the application process. We are 100% need-based, meaning all the monies that we award are based upon your individual financial need. And we are no loan. We were actually the very first college in the United States to institute a no loan financial aid policy back in 2001. And it is something that we are very proud of. That means that last year, 87% of our undergraduate students that graduated completely debt-free. The other 13%, their average indebtedness was well below the national average, is about $9,000, where the national average for indebtedness is about $30,000. So our financial aid is something that makes me very proud to work at this university that is truly putting their money where their mouth is when they're talking about accessibility and college access and making sure that folks can really afford a Princeton education. I'll leave you with that, leave you wanting more.
Thank you.
All right. So I believe that means I'm up.
Yes.
All right. So Lehigh is a medium-sized research university located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. If the Tappan Zee Bridge is moving, it's about 2 hours. It's about a 2-hour drive. If the Tappan Zee is Tappan Zeeing, it's more like 2.5 hours. Again, the real limiting factor is just how quickly can you cross the river. But I think it's a good distance away from Westchester County, really because we're close enough that you could get back for a day or a weekend or something quickly if you really needed to. We're a little bit too far away for your parents to come visit you every single weekend. But kind of thinking about what is Lehigh. Lehigh is composed of 4 undergraduate colleges. First one is the College of Arts and Sciences. That's where you're going to find all of your kind of liberal arts majors. Second is the College of Business. Third is the College of Engineering. And the fourth one is the College of Health. Now, the College of Health is it's not a pre-med college. It's much more of a health meets data science type college. Majors like biostatistics, community and global health, population health. It's much more the 50,000-foot, health meeting statistics as opposed to a blood in my veins or a brainwaves in my brain approach. Now, across all 4 colleges, that we put a real emphasis on undergraduate research. But even though Lehigh is an R1 research university, it is not the case that you'd have to apply to join a project and then you end up on a wait list, and then senior year you're getting in the lab. For us, all you need is a really cool idea and a faculty member to sponsor your work. We've had students in the lab literally their first day on campus, like move into the residence hall in the morning and be in the lab that afternoon. Beyond that, though, Bethlehem itself, it feels very much like a college town. There's not really a hard line kind of where our campus ends and the city of Bethlehem begins. The difference is really which side of the street you're standing on. And thinking about kind of what students get up to, there are over 300 clubs that students can join on campus. Everything from Formula SAE, building your own race cars, all the way down to the Cheese Appreciation Society. So if there are any cheese fans in the audience, we do have a club for you. Um, kind of beyond that, I'm gonna kind of take a little bit of a piece of influence from Emily, because I think one of the big things that kind of comes to mind about Lehigh, kind of having heard her, is also Lehigh's financial aid policy. There's something we have called the Lehigh Commitment. That is, if you have a family income under $75,000, you qualify for full grant funding from us, to cover kind of all aspects of your tuition. Um, in terms of what kind of makes Lehigh stand out to me, I think the biggest thing is with 5,800 undergrads on campus, we feel much, much smaller than we really are. On the one hand, like I said, I know I said this, we're an R1 research university with all the resources that comes with that. At the same time, though, we have a 10-to-1 student faculty ratio. The average class size is only about 20, 25 students. Lehigh feels much more like an overgrown liberal arts college than we do a big university. At the same time, though, we have the resources to go toe to toe with universities or colleges 10 times our size.
Thank you, Drew. Michaela?
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be with you to share a little bit about Penn. So, the University of Pennsylvania, we are a medium-sized Ivy League liberal arts and sciences research university located in the city of Philadelphia. So, Philly, we're talking about geography here, is a little bit farther than Princeton from New York area, but only just by about maybe a half hour driving. So we're pretty close to New York. I'm a native New York City resident. So it's just a hop, skip, and a jump from the tri-state area. Similarly to Lehigh, we're a university that is made up of 4 different undergraduate schools, and we also have 12 graduate schools as a part of the Penn umbrella. But our 4 undergraduate schools are what's important for you students today. We operate our Wharton School of Business, our School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, our College of Arts and Sciences, and then our Penn School of Nursing. All those schools vary in size, but they're all equally competitive to be admitted to. And our our university is really special because it's grounded in not just a praxis of exploration that the liberal arts and sciences is so known for, but also a huge research praxis that is really sort of at its heart innovative in nature. And most research is, but the University of Pennsylvania was founded by someone who was really, really passionate about advancing society. You might have heard of him. His name was Benjamin Franklin. He was one of the founding fathers of the United States, and he's still buried here in the city of Philadelphia, really close to where I'm sitting, probably about a 5-minute walk, actually. And he really believed that humans should be in service to the advancement of society. And that's something we hold very, very close to our heart at the University of Pennsylvania. So everything we do is fueled by that drive to innovate, to create, to grow, and to learn. And that's something that I think is so special, that creative drive to form new knowledge. At Penn, we also similarly have a really strong financial aid commitment that helps make this possible. So we call it the Quaker Commitment. And it has 4 basic tenets. The first is that a financial aid package that you receive from Penn, like all the other Ivies, will include 100% of your demonstrated financial need funding. So funding that meets 100% of your demonstrated financial need. And we are no loan, of course, as well. That's a part of that. 2, the value of your family's primary home is no longer considered an asset as part of our financial aid review program, and that's new this year, which is very exciting. 3, if your family makes under 200,000 US dollars with typical assets, your financial aid package is guaranteed to cover, at minimum, the full price of your tuition. And 4, if you are a family that makes under 75,000 US dollars every year, your financial aid package is guaranteed to cover all billed expenses, which includes tuition, fees, room, board, etc. And you may receive additional resources to ensure equal access to opportunities on our campus. So that is our Quaker commitment. It is updated now for the next year. So I always encourage folks who are curious to learn more about Penn and us being on the cutting edge of really funding students to achieve their fullest potential to go online to our website to learn more about that. There's so much more that I could say about the University of Pennsylvania, but I'll put a stop to it right there, and we'll dig more into it later on.
Thank you.
Awesome. And then Hamilton, we're a small liberal arts school located in upstate New York, so maybe not quite as close as some of the other colleges and universities, but we're about 4 hours away, about an hour away from Syracuse. Really nice Amtrak train station about 15 minutes away. I mentioned we're a small school, about 2,000 students, fully undergraduate student body population, not 9-to-1 student to faculty ratio, and similarly small class sizes. Students really get to know each other in the classroom, and you also get to know your professor. And part of the binding fabric for our students in the classroom is that they've chosen to be there. Hamilton is one of just a few schools in the country to offer an open curriculum. And what that means for our students is they don't have any general education requirements. There's no one given class in Hamilton that everyone is required to take. Instead, from the moment that you arrive on campus to the moment that you graduate, you'll be choosing all of your classes. And there are no restrictions between the different departments on campus, of which there are 58 different departments. I mentioned that this helps our students build really strong relationships. That's true also in our community. Hamilton is a fully residential college, so students live on campus for all 4 years, and housing is 100% guaranteed for all of our students. What this means is that they're always about 10, 15 minutes walk away from whatever it is that they need or whatever it is they want to do. So we have a very robust and collaborative campus environment of students that are eager to both do the things that they enjoy, but also to progress in the classrooms alongside their peers, and obviously a ton of opportunities to connect with their professors as well. I'll highlight on the personal skill development side and preparing students for what it is that they want to do after they graduate from Hamilton, some of the different career-related skill development, particularly communications. That's something that's true of the liberal arts, but it's something that's truly emphasized at Hamilton. Written communication, oral communication, as well as communicating data, and now especially too, digital fluency is taking a forefront in this communication value. And our newest building on campus, or soon to be newest building on campus, is our Digital Innovation Center. It's a new $50 million building that's going to host computer science, data science, and of course, the focus being on technology and communicating again through technology. On the flip side of that as well, we see this year over year in outcomes reports. Hamilton has a 91% placement rate about 10 months after graduation. About 95% of students have at least one career-related experience or internship before they graduate. About 85% have two or more. I'll close talking a little bit again about Hamilton's financial aid. It seems to be the trend. Hamilton is need blind during our domestic application review process. So again, that's not going to be one of the pieces that we consider as part of admission or the process of admission at Hamilton, while also guaranteeing to meet 100% demonstrated financial need for all of our admitted students. So again, that's one of those really things those special things about Hamilton that, I was life-changing for me as a former student, as a Hamilton graduate class of 2023. Hamilton means a lot to me. I'm still here talking about it. So, but yeah, that's a little bit about us.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for such a great overview of your schools. We're very eager to learn more about what your schools, have to offer, and we want to continue to further, inform our students. So, for our next question, if you can all take about 2 to 3 minutes to respond, what do you look for in a competitive applicant beyond GPA and test scores?
I'm assuming we're doing the same order again here. So
Yes, that would be great.
I will start us all off, and most of this will be relevant for everybody here. We all utilize a holistic review process, which means that we look at every single piece of your application, everything from the very first page with your name to the very last letter of recommendation. We read and review it all. And as we're going through that process, as you mentioned, of course, test scores, your GPA, your transcripts, that plays a role. That plays a role in understanding those kind of quantitative pieces, right? Those pieces of like how you've shown up in the classroom, what classes have you taken, goes even beyond what those, grades are. So when we're looking at your transcript, we're looking and saying, okay, what courses have been available to you and how have you challenged yourself while in high school? We want to see applicants that have challenged themselves at all of our schools, and that they've been able to do well and rise to that occasion. Maybe there are some times where we're struggling with grades. That's totally fine, but we're able to get the extra help and resources that we need, able to bring up those grades, recover, or just stick through that really difficult, horrible class. But we stuck through it, right? And we didn't give up and we kept working. Those are good things for us when we're looking at a transcript or something like that. But going beyond those like pieces, understanding your high school context and what's available to you, we're looking at your essays. We're looking at how you're talking about yourself and your experiences. We're thinking about you as a future student on our campus. So I believe all of us have supplemental questions of some degree. And so we're thinking about how you're responding to those and helping to get a picture of what you would be like on our campus community. And then the last thing that all of us are going to require are like letters of recommendation, as I mentioned before. We're going to read those to really get to know your character and who you've been in your like high school community, in all of the spaces that you've inhabited. What kind of qualities do you bring to your high school, to your youth group, to your sports, to your clubs and organizations? What kind of person are you? And that helps us kind of get a glimpse of how you would be on our campus. Ultimately, like, as we were going through all of our different schools, they kind of sound very similar. And a lot of them do have similarities, absolutely. I think that is something that is a little bit difficult, especially when we're reading applicants, right? Very similarly, applicants can all sound very similar, because they have, done a lot of the same activities, or they're been in the same classes. I think for me, when I'm reading applications, and probably the rest of them will agree as well, it's your essays and how you're conveying and talking about yourself and your own experiences that can really set you apart. So essays that are well thought out, that have a deep level of reflection, where you're actually thinking about the question. And really specifically, I'll say for our supplemental questions, you are deeply reflecting on what it would be like to be a student here, and answering that question in full and in only a way that you can, right? I think it's important to make sure that you're centering yourself when you're writing these college application essays, and ensuring that your voice and your perspective comes through. That doesn't mean that they have to be all of it be about you and you never talk about somebody else in your essay, not at all. We want you to think about that. But, if you're writing an essay about someone who inspires you, make sure you're reflecting on yourself. Right. And what that means to you, and not just how amazing your aunt is and how she's your inspiration, right? Thinking about making sure that your voice is heard in all of those qualitative pieces that we're going to be reading.
All right, I'm going to preface my answer by saying that I promise, I promise it's different from Emily's, but I agree with everything she said. Honestly, what Lehigh is looking for out of an applicant, obviously, I divide my answer into two halves. The first half is the academics, and the second half is what I kind of jokingly call the everything else. Starting off the academics, of course, I want to see that you're a strong student. When I'm reviewing a transcript, I do prefer A's over C's. At the same time, I want to see that you're taking advantage of the opportunities available to you through your school. Now, if your school offers 47 APs, please do not take all 47. You need time to sleep, and you need time to enjoy being a high school student. At the same time, though, build yourself up over your years, kind of increase your rigor, and kind of work your way up through the levels of AP or IB, or whatever's on offer, I'll say. At the same time, though, if that's not something that's available at your school, I cannot fault you for not taking advantage of an opportunity that is not available to you. and then kind of going and then kind of thinking now about standardized testing. I'm going to preface this by saying Lehigh is test optional in the dictionary definition of optional. If you want me to look at your scores, I'm happy to look at your scores. If you want me not to look at your scores, I'm happy not to look at your scores. The way I would look at it is, do you think your test scores are going to reflect well on you in the application process? Do you think they're not going to reflect well on you? Are you particularly proud of your scores and you want me to see them anyway? There's not a right answer to whether you should submit standardized testing or not. But at the same time, the SAT or the ACT is how good you are at filling in bubbles for a few hours on a Saturday morning. It is not the sum total of who you are as a student. And if I had to choose between the SAT and your transcript, your transcript represents consistent academic effort over the course of, when reading your application, 3 years, whereas your SAT represents consistent academic effort over the course of hours. Um, Thinking more now about the everything else side of it, really what I want to see is that you're an active and engaged and generally kind of decent human being. And that's what comes out through your activities, your essay, and your supplements. For your activities, there's not, oh, I want to see that you're involved in your community and define community how you will. Maybe you're involved in sports, maybe you volunteer, maybe you work part-time, maybe you have family responsibilities. You have to go home because your parents work late and you have to make dinner for your siblings. There's not a right way to be involved. The biggest thing though is that you are involved in something, that you're making good use of your time outside the classroom and having an impact kind of in the way that you feel is most impactful. Thinking about your essay, tell your story. All the Common App essay prompts are vague intentionally. Talk about a time of personal growth. Talk about a time that changed your perspective. I cannot tell you what that is for you, but whatever that experience is, tell your story. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase. I believe almost most English teachers in the country right now when I say show, don't tell. To kind of back up what Emily was saying, there are essays that I remember from 4 years ago that I can still talk about. I bumped into a student last spring. Was a junior at the time. He's going to his senior year. I could still tell him, not word for word, but paragraph for paragraph, what he wrote his essay about when this student applied to Lehigh, back in the day. Um, pick a formative experience or something that's really shaped you and run with it. Thinking now about supplements, this is something where the exact answer is going to vary a little bit from university to university because we all ask slightly different supplements. But the overall kind of thing with them that I look for is, how much have you engaged with the prompts? And the big thing there is, because these supplements are specific to the university that's asking for them, they are your chance to talk directly to the person who is reading your application. To kind of give you an example from, Lehigh, the first supplement we ask you for is, how did you hear about Lehigh and why are you applying? You know, the and let's say I have two students, and student A writes, I'm applying to Lehigh because I want to study biology. Okay, but you can study biology at Princeton, you can do that at Hamilton, and you can do that at Penn. Kind of what is it about Lehigh that's getting you going? Compare that to a student who says, I'm interested. I first heard about Lehigh from my mom's coworker, who said it's a great school because it starts with the letter L. And then I was on this panel, and there was this guy there who had this amazing tie on, and he was saying all this amazing stuff, and so you see the difference. Kind of with the supplements, like I said, they are your chance to talk directly to me and the equivalent of me at every other institutions. Um, they're your chance to really show us that not only have you taken the time to really kind of get to know the universities you're applying to, you're taking the time and you're taking the effort to really share that with us through the process. Beyond, I say, I know I said earlier, kind of an active and engaged and good human. We want to see that you're taking the time to really learn a bit about where you're applying. And the reason I'm focusing on the supplements so much is because they're your chance to tell us that and talk directly to the college or university kind of through the application. If I had to distill this down to a single point, do not shortchange your supplements because they speak volumes when we're reading.
Awesome. I'm excited to follow that up. And I'll again, similarly to my previous presenters, I don't want to repeat anything. And, a lot of this is similar across the board, and I want to acknowledge that. Similarly, to the previous schools that have gone, Penn is a holistic evaluation process, which means that it's about the sum of the parts and not anything that is presented in an individual component of the application, because what we're really looking for is fit. We're not looking for the best of the best, because the reality is, first of all, it's hard to measure. But second of all, I often get asked, well, my child was the valedictorian and they did every activity under the face of the planet, and yet they weren't admitted. And why is that? And it's hard to explain to families that if we were just going by merit alone, we could fill our class 10 times over with valedictorians. And so there has to be a way to discern which students are the right fit for Penn and not which students are just the right academic fit. So it comes around to so much more. So there's not one thing that either qualifies or disqualifies a student to be admitted to the University of Pennsylvania. It's about how all the pieces come together and ultimately the story that students are telling on their application. I'll talk just a little bit about the sort of academic pieces. So I always talk about the transcript or the academic record as being a place where we're looking to see two things and how those two things intersect. First, we're looking to see evidence of academic success over time. This is generally evidenced by grades, but not always. It could be marks, it could be narrative essays, if that is what your school does, but generally it's grades. So we're looking to see evidence that you have been successful in the courses that you've taken throughout high school, or if you have had a dip in that success, we want to see that you've recovered. And then we're also looking, the second thing, at rigor. So we're looking at progression. Are you taking slightly harder courses each semester that goes by? So we're looking to see how those two things intersect, that you're taking slightly harder classes as time goes by and that you're seeing sustained academic success over time. And it's relative to your environment, right? Because we only evaluate students within the context of their own academic environment. So we won't penalize a student for not having access to certain coursework if your school doesn't offer APs, and you only are able to take IBs. We will judge with the merit of the IB system and not the AP system, so on or so forth. So that's the first thing about the transcript. I will say there's a small caveat to that, which is that, when you apply to Penn, you apply to one of our 4 undergraduate schools as a part of the application process. And each school does have some preferred academic criteria that they're looking for, just because our partners in the schools have identified to us that there is certain academic preparation that some students need in order to be successful in specific undergraduate programs at Penn. So for example, if you're interested in applying to our Wharton School of Business, we would like to see advanced calculus or advanced math that is offered at your school, versus if you're applying to our School of Nursing, we would want to see advanced chemistry and biology in addition to that advanced math. So it's important to understand that while we don't penalize students for not having access to certain coursework, you should also be able to identify what school you're interested in, to do some research to make sure that your academic preparation is a good fit for that school. The next thing I'll say is also about some other holistic components of the application. First of all, testing. At the University of Pennsylvania, we are not test optional at this point in time. We were test optional, but starting this year, we have returned to a test required format, which means that students are required to take the SAT or the ACT and submit those scores, or to submit a testing waiver if they're unable to access the testing. And that could be for whatever reason, and you do that through the application itself. The next thing I'll talk about is again, trying not to repeat what other colleagues have said. Everything that other colleagues have said about activities is true at Penn too. Make sure you're choosing things that are sort of really reflective of your goals and passion. I'll say that something that is quite important to us, highlighting that sort of like, are you a good person idea, is that, as I said previously, Penn is really about being in service to the advancement of our future. And we believe that people should be in service to community and to growth. And so that's really something that we're looking for a lot in the application. How are you embodying that ethos of progress, of innovation? And that is applied across the board, whether you're applying to our College of Arts and Sciences or to our School of Business. We want to know how you're in service to your communities and what your vision is for the future of our American society. And so you have a lot of opportunities to display that on the application, whether that be through your extracurriculars, but also through recommendations and being selective with who you ask to write your letters of recommendation and really asking them to highlight, civic mindedness as a part of your recommendations and leadership in ways maybe that aren't coming across in other parts of your application. And then, of course, on the essays, I'll say something that's in a little bit of opposition, Drew, to what you said, which is that for me, I've read probably almost 6,000 applications in my career, and I don't tend to remember specific essays. For me, I always say that it's not about the story of who you are, it's about a story of who you are, the story that you want to convey to us, that will really give us a sense of why you're a good fit for this community. Because sometimes I feel like there's a lot of pressure that's placed on the personal statement, but remember, your college application should be your highlights reel. It doesn't need to be everything that's deep and dirty about you. It's about the things that you really want to share with us. And your personal statement, true, it can be really about anything. So try to take a step back and sort of, if you're having trouble, I should say, identifying a topic for your personal statement, take a step back and remember that one essay is not the end all be all representative of your life, and that you have supplemental essays that will help, in addition to your personal statement, lift that narrative up. And the one I'll focus on for Penn is our gratitude question. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we introduced a new supplement, which asks students to identify someone who has helped them in their journey of life on their application and to write a note of thanks to that person. There's no trick questions here with this. It's not an undercover way for you to talk about your accomplishments. It's hopefully a moment where you're able to center joy in this process, to really think about the people in your life that have helped you on your journey, and to pay homage to those people. And it could be someone you know personally, or it might be someone that you don't really know, and that's fine too. But again, it's about identifying how the people in your life have influenced you and how you will bring that influence to our campus community and to the world in general. And that's what I'll say about Penn.
Thank you, Michaela. I was trying not to interrupt you. We did have a scholar ask a question regarding one of the aspects that you mentioned. So I did want to see if we can have you answer briefly, because we want to give Connor time to answer that last question. So one of our scholars did ask, if our school closed an AP chemistry section, which impeded or stopped us from the ability to take the AP English literature course, does taking like a SUPA principles of writing get judged differently based on that rigor?
So the first thing I'll say is that we are familiar with all the various types of rigor. And when you apply to Penn, and this is true, I believe it, across our institutions, there is going to be a territory representative who will really keep an eye on your application to make sure that everybody who's reviewing your application has the regional knowledge they need in order to provide an equitable assessment of your application. And that is for something as simple as SUPA courses versus College Now versus AP versus IB. And so the person that's reviewing your application will know all the nuances of the rigor that is available to your school. And we will be able to sort of piece together the academic narrative that is being told. Of course, you still have agency and power in this situation. If there's something you want to share with us about your academic trajectory, we always highly encourage you to do so through the additional information section that is on the application. And oftentimes, this space is students indicating to us, I wasn't able to take this course because of this scheduling conflict. And it is always helpful to hear in students' own words why they weren't able to take a course. So if you ever had a concern about a course that you were or weren't able to access, you can always feel free to include that in the additional information section. I always encourage students to make use of every ounce of space they have on the application. It is your right to do that. And to make sure that you're sending us an application that you really feel like is reflective of all the nuances of your academic trajectory. That being said, you should rest assured you're in good hands. Like I said, my colleague Susanna, who reviews the students from Long Island and Westchester counties, is very, very knowledgeable about this area.
Thank you so much. We'll get to the other student questions. I will like to pass it on to Connor so that you can finish with that last question. And then we do have some student questions that I will like to ask a few of you.
Awesome. That's exciting. Similar to everybody else that has shared, Hamilton has a holistic review approach. I know we talked a lot about maybe some of the different components that come into it, but I'd like to extrapolate maybe some of the thinking behind why we're looking at some of these different pieces of the application. I think it's true of all of us that we're spending a lot of time, particularly with that academic material. That's really important for us. And similar to Michaela and at UPenn, we're trying to get a sense of academic success or evidence of academic success, and then also Hamilton, where we're trying to look at intellectual curiosity, similar to our open curriculum. And the reason why we're placing such an emphasis on both of those first and foremost is because when we admit students and when we bring them to Hamilton, we want them to be successful. At Hamilton, we have a 96% first year retention rate and 90% 4 to 6 year graduation rate. We are super proud of those numbers. And part of the reason why those numbers are as high as they are is because as an admissions committee, we take a lot of time to ensure that when students are admitted to Hamilton, they've got the tools and the skills to be successful in our classrooms. And similarly, we're also trying to get a sense of who they'll be in our community. And oftentimes really great indicators of that is the things that you're doing in your communities at home, but also your willingness to do new things and to try different things once you arrive on campus. I know we talked a little bit about the personal narrative or the personal essay. One thing that I think, and especially in a time where AI is becoming an increasingly large part of the discussion in terms of the college admissions process, is the importance of a student's voice and how easily or unfavorably it can come across on an application or in a personal essay. It's one of those things that I think I always try to encourage students to emphasize as part of that process, because your writing pieces, again, it's a window into who you are as an applicant, and how easily your voice can come across is oftentimes one of those things that, like Drew mentioned, will keep you thinking about those essays, those personal writing pieces far after you've applied and someone has reviewed your application. And then finally, with those supplemental pieces, another thing too, we really like students that like us. It's one of those things that just is a human element of the application process. And not only does it give us the chance to learn a little bit more about you, but demonstrates to us that you're interested. And then that's one of those pieces that we're looking for as part of our application process. And like Michaela mentioned, to use all of those different spaces in the application, if you don't tell us, we won't know. And that's one of those really important things too, thinking about the different class situations and maybe why some of those decisions or why some of those ebbs and flows and grades exist on a student's transcript is just telling us. And oftentimes when we look at transcripts, that's part of the question that we're asking ourselves is, what is the reasoning behind this? And having an answer written out, it makes the process a lot easier. So those are some of the things in addition to all of the other pieces in the application that we're taking a look at. And I guess to tie it all together, holistic review is obviously taking a look at our student applicants, but also the environment and that they're coming to us, and understanding that no two high schools are the same, no two students have the same profile. And so getting to know each and every one of our applicants is the responsibility of the admission officer. And that's something that we take a lot of pride in.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Selena. I definitely want to hear those student questions.
All right. So we have a question. This is actually for Michaela. What kind of student tends to thrive most at Penn, not just academically, but personally?
This is such a great question. And I think it's so hard to identify. I'll say that overall, I think that if you're passionate about Penn, Penn will be passionate about you. Um, I think that in general, the college experience is one that you need to invest yourself in order to get something back. So I always am a little hesitant to identify a specific type of student that I think really thrives at Penn. Although, if I had to boil it down, what I would say is that that spirit of innovation, of discovery, is really important in the sense that it's not that you have to be outgoing to be successful at Penn, but you have to have a thirst for knowledge and growth, and a desire to really invest yourself in a community. We are a medium-sized school, but we're on that larger end of medium size. We're 10,000 undergraduate students. And again, we house 12 graduate schools on our campus. So there is a huge volume of people in our community, which is wonderful. But sometimes students need a little more intimacy in their education. So it's important for you to understand and identify what type of student you are, and are you really going to thrive at an institution like Penn, where there is so much happening at once. We're the second largest Ivy League institution. We're located in a major urban area. And while I think that has so much to offer, I think there are some students that might feel overwhelmed by that. So to do that, thinking about yourself, I'd say, though, if you lead with passion, Penn is a place where you could really thrive and grow. And that's across the disciplines.
You. So the next question says, at Princeton, how can an undergraduate student involve themselves within their career, and what type of research opportunities do you provide? They would like to share that they're looking to pursue pediatric oncology and to thank you for joining the seminar.
Well, thank you for having us, for having me. So in regards to pursuing like internship or career opportunities, especially for students that are looking to pursue like pre-medicine, our Center for Career Development is a fantastic resource for helping to connect students to internship, shadowing opportunities, things like that, as well as their academic departments. Oftentimes, alums will connect with professors and share about opportunities that they have for students to come shadow them or do internships over the summer. And so that certainly is a way. Since you are specifically interested in pediatric oncology, I will take a moment to talk about our pre-health, our health professions programs. So at Princeton, we don't have like a pre-health track or major. Instead, we have health professions advising, and these are basically folks that are responsible for helping you achieve your goals after graduation. So whether that's applying to medical school, dental school, veterinary school, being a PA, working in hospital administration, they're there to support you. So basically, from the moment that you'll step foot on campus, they will work with you to make sure that you're taking any prerequisite courses that you need for your goal, getting access to those kind of shadowing and internship opportunities, as well as actually helping you through the application process, whether you do that while you're an undergraduate student or you do that a couple of years or a number of years after you graduate, they are still around to help support you with that. In regards to research, we have ample research opportunities. I talked about that senior thesis, but there are many opportunities to get involved in research way before then. Most commonly, students will start their research experience at Princeton in kind of more volunteer capacities, working with professors, perhaps identifying those opportunities in their classes themselves or through our Center for Undergraduate Research or undergraduate research program. But there are a number of really awesome opportunities. One of my favorite is Rematch. It is a summer opportunity for students typically that are rising sophomores and juniors. And this is where you get paired with a PhD student at Princeton and you work as their research assistant over the summer. So they are working on their PhD project. You get to kind of get your feet wet, figure out what research and what lab work and what this looks like at Princeton. You are working in a lab that is run by one of our professors as well, because all of the PhD students belong to a lab. And it's just a really great opportunity to kind of ask the questions that maybe you'd be a little bit afraid to ask a professor with a Nobel Prize, but a PhD student, it feels pretty chill to make a mistake or ask a question or really just kind of get your bearing and figure it all out. So there are ample opportunities for students to engage in research, and research happens in every discipline. I think we usually think of like pipettes and test tubes, but there is research happening in 17th century poetry in France, just as much as we are studying DNA and neuroscience and everything that looks pretty sciencey, researchy, stereotypically.
Very impressive. Thank you so much. This next question. Ooh. Well, thank you, reps, for answering in the chat. I appreciate it. But I do still want to ask for that everybody can hear for some of our other scholars that may not be seeing the chat. For UPenn, it says, could a student's legal status in the US interfere with the financial aid process? This is a common question, so if you can elaborate any bit you can, we would really appreciate it.
Yes, so I definitely can. And I did write the answer in the chat, but I'll elaborate a bit more and repeat what I said. So at the University of Pennsylvania, we are need blind for US citizens and permanent residents in the US, as well as citizens of Mexico and Canada. All that means is that to be need blind, it means that when I review your application and when we choose to admit a student to the university, we are not taking finances into account in the evaluation process. To be need aware is only the stipulation that we would be able to reserve the right to take finances into account as a part of the application process. It doesn't mean that that is the case for every student. It just means that that can be a part of the evaluation process. So we're need blind, like I said, for US citizens and permanent residents, citizens of Mexico and Canada, and we are need aware for the rest of the world. And this is the case at most universities. Unfortunately, there are very, very few universities in this country, and I don't know if any of those universities are on the call, so Princeton is, who can afford to be need blind for every applicant. But what I can say about Penn is that we fund 100% of need for every student that is admitted to the university, whether they are citizens or not. And your legal status will not impact your ability to be funded to the university. If you are admitted to the university, we will fund you. And that will be with no loans for every student. So we urge students not to, it's very challenging to say, but we urge students to try and put that out of their mind where financial aid is concerned, because if you're admitted to the university, we will fund you to attend the university.
Thank you. Do we have any other reps that would like to add anything that their school might be a little different to give some context for our scholars? No, everybody's like, that's pretty much it.
I'd say
Yeah.
I do.
Lehigh, you can go first, Lehigh, then we'll go
Okay.
to Princeton.
I'm going to jump in as a university that is need aware in the process. Now, kind of to Michaela's point, there are gradations of need aware. Speaking only for Lehigh, kind of the way financially, a student's ability to pay is only going to come into the discussion kind of at the 11th hour after committee, and it's only going to come up when we already have some questions about whether we want to admit a student or not. It is never going to be the sole deciding factor of whether we admit a student, whether you can afford to pay for Lehigh. Kind of to the question about kind of students to legal status, exactly, it's going to depend a little bit on which exact status we're talking about. If you are, I'm going to use a couple of technical terms here, but if you are a domestic student, which for us is a U.S. citizen or permanent resident, again, Lehigh also meets 100% of demonstrated financial need. How we calculate that is based off a couple of documents called the FAFSA and the CSS profile. I'm not going to get into the details here because that's going to devolve into a way bigger discussion. If you are what we would consider to be an international student, that would be someone who is in the United States studying here on a visa, you would go through the international financial aid process. Now, that is a very different process compared to domestic students, but if it's there is international financial aid available. If you are undocumented, DACA, a United States refugee, or asylee, tell us that, and you would be considered as a domestic student for purposes of financial aid. If you are unable to fill out FAFSA or CSS because of complications in regards to your legal status, those are requirements that we are able to waive through the process. We just have to know what your status is, and then you're going to see those requirements go away.
What would be the recommended way of disclosing that information for our scholars?
So that is that there that is something that does come up in the application. Um, I know because of how our system works, it does not always translate over properly. Um, but if there is some, if an item comes up on the checklist that on your application checklist that you're not expecting, that is something where you can communicate with us by email. Either if you email the main admissions account or email me as the regional counselor for Westchester County directly. I can update things on the back end. Like I said, it should come through on Common App. Um, it does not always come through on Common App.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, to that point, I will say some schools like Princeton, we don't look at citizenship. It's actually not something that's viewable to readers. Citizenship status, race, ethnicity. Since the Supreme Court decision a few years ago, we actually don't look at and review that information anymore during our process. We do have the same financial aid policies for all students, regardless of citizenship or citizenship status, international students, DACA, undocumented, US citizens, permanent residents, everybody. That is something that we are very fortunate to be able to do, and very much understand that, we're an old institution with a lot of money. And so that is something that we have prioritized and definitely wanted to do. I would say for students that are DACA undocumented students in the process, or maybe you have mixed status within your family and it makes you a little bit weary to share that information officially through routes, we absolutely understand that. I would recommend, because every school is going to have a different way that they're going to really prefer that information get to them. Try to pick up the phone and call those schools that you're actually applying to, and seeing what information and resources they have. For example, at Princeton, we have a specific way that you'll fill out like social security numbers on things if folks don't have those. But every school is going to have something different for that. And also to protect yourself, your family, your own status, whatever that is. Phone calls can be a little bit better for this situation if you can. Obviously, some schools are going to need that information that they can put in an admission file, but definitely always make sure that you're prioritizing yourself, your own safety, your family's safety, and whenever possible, picking up a phone is a really great route to use if you are in that situation.
I'm just going to second everything Emily just said.
Amazing. Is there anything else that any other rep would like to add?
Yeah, I'll just throw in that we're very similar to both Emily and Drew in that we are need blind for our domestic applicants, and we also similarly meet 100% of demonstrated need for all of our admitted students. But like everybody's kind of said around the discussion, just letting us know is a really important part of the process.
Thank you. If I had a nickel for every time I said communication matters. A lot of nickels. That's it for our questions. Pam, I will pass it to you.
Yeah, I can't thank you guys enough, Princeton, Hamilton, UPenn, and Lehigh for being here today. I appreciate this. Will go out to all our scholars. We'll highlight all the great information that you gave us, so they'll want to and keep them wanting more, so that they can see the video, because this was a great opportunity to learn about your institutions, about your wonderful institutions, and the opportunities that you provide. And I hope that our scholars will see you soon. And we thank you for this evening. I thank my team Camila and Selena. And with that, we will wrap it up. And let's all have a great fall and financial aid season. So have a great night. Thank you, everyone.
Everyone.